Prince Harry once again is sabotaging his reconciliation efforts with his father by sending a letter to the Home Secretary, once again demanding, basically lobbying, to get a taxpayer-funded security review. This man will not give up, despite being rejected by the courts, rejected by his family, rejected by basically everyone. Harry is still throwing a giant, massive temper tantrum over this. And it's just a sign that despite, again, Harry's claims to the contrary, he doesn't really want a relationship with his father. In fact, I would argue that most of this, at the end of the day, is all about the money. So we are going to get into all this. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling royal commentary, so please hit that subscribe button. I would absolutely love to have you back. And we do have the Crown Report upcoming on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to hear about all the royal news beyond the UK, basically outside of the Harry and Meghan realm, feel free to check that out. It's going to be very, very exciting. It's always great to go over what all the other real royals are doing and all the fantastic impact they are having, and sometimes some of the controversies as well. So guys, feel free to keep your eye out for that. We do have it under podcast as well. So very exciting when that comes up tomorrow. But today we are talking about Harry and security again. Yes. Oh, yes. He lost his court case, but the guy is just not giving up. He's like a dog with a bone. If he can get the UK government to pay for his security again, I feel like Harry will have a sense of relief because he doesn't have to pay for it anymore. And he just has this very delusional belief about his importance within the system and how much people actually care about him and his wife and his family, which is, I would say, very, very small. So let's just say a broader statement overall, because I think this is important context generally. But when it comes to the royal system, spares are at some point, yes, you may be higher up in the line of succession now. He is 5th in the line of succession. His son is 6th, his daughter is 7th. At some point, though, he'll be off into infinity. He'll be way down past 10 because once his niece and nephews start having children, he just will get bumped further and further and further and further down the line. This is what always happens within a royal system. Princess Anne got 24/7 security at one point. Now she just basically gets it when her properties are within sort of that royal protection apparatus and on royal engagements. And she even had an attempted kidnapping on the Royal Mile way back, I believe, in the 70s. So Princess Anne has definitely had some real threats. Prince Harry, not so much. And the reality remains for Harry, as it was for Anne, as it is for Edward, and basically every other royal, is that if you're not in that immediate line, which Harry is no longer, you just at some point slip on to irrelevance. And that's how it should be. That is how it works within a royal system. And this is how it works basically anywhere in royal families, is that, yes, at younger ages, the heir and the spare, that all matters. But at some point, once the heir has children, once the next line of succession has been secured, those who are not part of that initial line, yes, they may still work for the monarchy. They may still get part-time security. They may do state events and these sorts of things, but they're sort of free to live their own lives and they're taken out of that overall apparatus because it's time consuming. It costs taxpayers a lot of money. And at some point, they're just not constitutionally relevant anymore. And that's the case for Prince Harry. What Prince Harry did with Mexit is essentially speed up what was going to be the inevitable outcome of his and Meghan's life, which was that they're not going to get 24/7 security anymore. That was always going to happen. There was never a possibility where that was not going to happen. It was always going to happen. And so Harry being miffed about this now, I can't help but think, so you're so upset about the security, you want it back so badly, but you have to know that this was always going to be your reality. And I think that's part of the ego blow to Harry, is not that his security was really pulled. It's about the ego that comes with the security and the status that comes with the security, which he knows he's going to lose, because we've heard that Harry was getting really, really like tense about the idea that George is going to come along and George was going to get all the attention. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, he's not as important anymore. And yeah, that's kind of the thing, but you become important by your series of actions, not just because of your place in the line of succession and whatever. And Harry, I think, is just so consumed with this idea that he's not going to get his security that he's driving himself a little crazy over it. And he's once again lobbying the government about this. And there's no part of this that plays well. This is absolutely asinine. It's annoying and it's a waste of time and money. The government should not be there to cater to a bratty prince's whims. That, again, just annoys people. And Harry just doesn't seem to get that because he thinks, I think, with Meghan's help, that the whole world revolves around them. And the reality is, yes, they get a lot of press, but it's all negative, and it's mostly people who are just exasperated. Again, I think the gravest risk to Harry and Meghan is maybe a rotten tomato might be thrown their way or an egg or something like that. That is their gravest risk, I think, in the UK. And they've inflated it to such an extent, and they have some guy on security who keeps going, oh, they're at such risk, they're such high risk and all these things. And I'm like, I really don't think that's the case. Maybe it was at one point, but I really don't think it is because the person we've known who's had an assassination attempt in the last couple of years was Queen Elizabeth herself back in, I think, 2021 or 2022. I think it was 2021, her last Christmas. A guy was scaling the walls of Windsor Castle under the guise of addressing a issue, I think, way back in the colonial era of India and Pakistan. And you could argue that his attempted assassination had racial undertones to it. And wouldn't you know it, wasn't it Harry and Meghan that went on Oprah Winfrey and made a series of claims about the royal family being racist? Do you think that had anything to do with this man scaling the walls of Windsor Castle and trying to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II? I think it does. And that's because the royals have real power. Harry and Meghan are just noise. They're just noise in the background. And so let's go ahead and look at this Times piece about Harry and his security and how he is sabotaging the relationship with his father. Because the other aspect of this, which we'll get to, is that Harry apparently wants to make inroads and reconciliation. And one of the things he has claimed has prevented him from doing that is him suing the government. But now he's officially lobbying the government for a personal reason. It's a personal reason. He doesn't need to do this. This is entirely personal. It has nothing to do with the government and the functionality of the UK. Harry, again, is constitutionally irrelevant. He wants taxpayers to waste their money placating him. I mean, if you are a British citizen and are not immensely aggravated by this waste of time, money, and resources, I would be, because he deserves, I think, a lot of the public's ire for being such a pain in the butt. So let's go ahead and look. So the title of this is Prince Harry's Security Push Risks Reconciliation with King Charles. So the Duke of Sussex's letter to the Home Office undermines attempts to mend relations with his father's royal insiders say. And so Harry currently receives, if you're not aware, a bespoke protection on a case-by-case basis when he visits the UK after he lost his right to automatic round-the-clock security when he stepped back from royal life and moved from America. Again, he made this decision right here. Yeah, he did not think that moving to America and getting outside the royal fold, that would not have consequences. In his letter to Mahmoud, who is the Home Secretary, which was revealed on Friday, will once again make the king wary of contact with his younger son. It's not going to help matters, a royal source says. We're back to where we were. In September, Harry and the king met for a 50-minute chat over tea at Clarence House. A royal source says the king cannot and will not lobby. That's inappropriate. His representatives cannot advocate for policy outcomes, particularly in relation to his own family. The royal household representative on the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, Revic, overseen by the Home Office, is not there to advocate a position for a member of the royal family. They are there purely as a liaison to the household. If you put yourself in the mind of a father who is repeatedly told he should and could intervene, that is not helpful, complicates matters, and shows a lack of understanding about the reality of the situation. But Harry, of course, has repeatedly said he feels his father should and could intervene. After he lost his case in the Court of Appeals, Harry said it was a good old fashioned establishment stitch up. He told the BBC, I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of the security stuff. Well, no kidding. Well, not to mention the fact that you put all private conversations in a book called Spare. So why would he basically want to talk to you? But dude, it's taxpayer money. They can't waste it on you because you have this like personal idea. Your kids are not relevant to the monarchy anymore, nor are you. The line of succession has been established. It's been secured. It'll be continue to be secured as soon as William and Catherine have grandchildren. There'll be more, and you will become increasingly, once again, irrelevant. And this is another example of how Harry's demands should result in action. The royal family should strip him of his place in the line of succession and strip his titles and that of his children and his wife. And the reason is, well, number one, it gets rid of this whole argument in the first place. This argument no longer exists because he's very much not constitutionally relevant. He's like any other British citizen. He doesn't get it. But Charles just doesn't seem to want to do that, in part because of these alleged reconciliation efforts. However, I would argue that Harry's reconciliation effort, especially when he goes and automatically sabotages it, again, in his delusional belief that he is more important than his brother and sister-in-law and their children and family and his father, basically, Harry is one of the most, let's see, Harry is the biggest target in the UK, according to Harry. But I think the real reason here that reconciliation efforts have been established at all is that things are not going well in Hollywood. And it's really the money Harry is after, not his father's money, not his brother's money. I want to be clear on that, that there's this idea that there's a pot of dad is really inaccurate. The royals are generally in the UK land rich. They don't have, let's say, liquid cash. They have a lot of physical assets, but not a lot of liquid cash. There's a huge difference between them and Elon Musk or something like that. Yes, they technically have a decent chunk of change, but it's not endless. And they're very restricted on what they can do. So when it comes to Harry in this situation, he's not after the bank of dad or the bank of brother. He's after the bank of being a member of the royal family and how that helps him make money and his wife to make money. Because the problem that these two nincompoops have figured out at some point, because it just took them too long to kind of get to this conclusion, because it just I think dawned on them at some point that in order to really utilize your connections to the royal family, you actually have to be connected to the royal family. And what I mean by that is that Harry and Meghan did an incredibly stupid thing. I mean, they've done a lot of stupid things, but one of them is just burning the bridge of the relationship with the royal family on their way out the door. They burned it, they blew it up, they set it on fire, then made sure like a tornado went through to get rid of all the remains. And then they're like standing there on the other chasm of the divide going, oh, no way. We really kind of need that, don't we? So let's look at this article from here, the page 6. So humanitarians of the year, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle ready to strategize a peace deal with the royals. A source. And I actually sort of believe this. And so, they've been trying to forge their own path of reconciliation, I guess, and they were honored with a pointless, meaningless awards. But insiders told page 6 that behind the scenes, Markle was never shied away from going into detail about her husband's relatives allegedly mistreated her, has been supporting Harry's recent bid to reconcile with his family, especially his father. They need the royal family. Meghan is aware of that. The couple are aware of the cachet their royal titles afford them. Their stationery and that of their children has HRH emblazed on it, which they shouldn't be using. They're not supposed to use it. And it's just such ego that they do. But the big thing is they need the royal family. Meghan is aware of that. Because I think what Meghan has found is that the longer she's away from the royal family, the less people care about her. And care about her in the industry, because Meghan has made the crucial error of not demonstrating any particular talent in really anything since leaving the royal family. She has thrown out podcasts, TV shows. She's done one book. She has a business. She has like a variety of things, and nothing's really sticking. In fact, everything's sort of failing. And Meghan has become aware of something that Fergie was well aware of. So Fergie played her cards better than Meghan Markle, which is that if you have a connection to the royal family, people are interested in chatting with you because of that connection. Harry and Meghan have nothing to offer but themselves, and they're a dime a dozen in Hollywood right now. What makes them interesting, potentially, or more interesting, is their connection to the royal family. And without that, they basically have nothing. They're two grifters who can't seem to rub a creative brain cell between the two of them. They're not creative people. They don't have that capacity. They're not very good at it. And they really struggled in the industry to come up with a hit. And that has been demonstrated wildly this year because Meghan has thrown out a crap ton of material and most of it has failed or flamed out really quickly. So she'll be a bright star 1 second and then it like it's like a firework. It explodes, it's bright for 2 seconds, and then it's gone, and she has nothing else. And that has definitely been with Love Megan, which I'm sure she thought might be like a winner. Well, season 2 was a total flame out. It crashed and burned. It didn't make a single country's top 10 list on Netflix. When last time it made, I want to say it was like 23 or something. I did the whole calculations. It made it on a variety of countries' top 10 lists. And this time, not at all. And that goes to show you how poorly it performed. And that has been everything. And I think the obsession with the HRH, guys, this is the only thing that makes them interesting. It's the only thing. We talk about them not because they're interesting, but because the train wreck that they've made their lives, I think people are interested in seeing how things will play out. It's not because they themselves are all that interesting. How they've made a series of stupid decisions, how they've destroyed relationships, that is what people are interested in, not them. So they desperately need this because this is the only thing that makes Meghan different than her friends who are wealthier than her, influential than her. And I mean, we know, or at least it's been rumored, that Meghan has been desperate for a long time to get other A-listers to hang out with her, and none of them want to because she doesn't really have anything they want. She's just a grifter, and they can get connections with more famous, more successful people that may result in a job, whereas Meghan, like, it's nothing. And it goes on to say Meghan knows that Harry won't be returning to royal duties, but on a human, personal level, she wants him to be able to get on good terms with his father. She doesn't care. Why do you care now? She hasn't cared in years. She doesn't even care about having a relationship with her own stinking family. Why would she want Harry to have a relationship with his? Well, again, it's for that royal connection, which they've realized they kind of sort of need. And what happens if everything is taken away from them? What if Harry may still be Prince Harry, but there's no Duke and Duchess of Sussex anymore? There's no Prince and Princess Archie and Lilibet, and they're just like everybody else in Hollywood. I think that's what should be done. And Charles, I think, is too chicken to do it. And I understand he wants a relationship with his son, and I support that personal relationship. But he needs to make the separation clear. That could actually be the best thing he does for his reign is create a system in place where somebody violates whatever agreement is made in the course of conduct with the royal family, that is dealt with severely. Because then you have these crazy people out there that you can't seem to rein in at all. And that's Charles's fault in many ways. He could rein them in. He just doesn't seemingly want to. And they damage his reign because of their inability to keep things to themselves, their ability to manage and rein in their own desires. So I think Charles, in this instance, should make the hard decision. He hasn't yet, but I think he should. Hopefully, he gets there at some point, but we shall see. But when it comes to security, I think that door needs to be firmly slammed in Harry's face and go, no, no. In the royal system, if there's a real risk, we'll help you with that. But if there's not a real risk, if you just want the flash bang of a motorcade, I mean, There's a joke in a show I like that says everybody loves a motorcade, but no, you don't get a motorcade just because you love it and you want it. You have to actually need it. You have to be actually important enough to need it. And Harry left the royal family. And I'm sorry, but nobody should be required to pay for his foolishness. That is a decision Harry made, and it's one he's going to have to live with. But guys, let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall speak to you again very soon. Bye.